Today's episode, one skill that supports everything else, and you'll probably miss it, is a really important episode and one we're going to end the season on because it's the skill that determines whether your partner opens up or shuts down, whether a conversation brings you closer or pushes you away. It's not on purpose. It's because no one ever taught us how to stay present when our partner is sharing something that's either upsetting to them or something that's upsetting to us. And so this episode is about that foundational skill. And when you master it, your relationship will really start to shift. So grab a notebook or just listen first because I'm sure you're going to need to come back to it because I'm sharing the biggest tip that I think makes everything else finally work.
Welcome to the Love Conscious Relationship Podcast, where our host gives her expert advice about relationships, communication, connection, and intimacy as she explores ideas about how to share, respect, and validate your partner with one loving experience at a time. Now let's welcome our host, therapist and relationship expert, Jessica Myers-Adams.
Okay, so this is the one skill that supports everything else, and I think most people miss it. Hey there, I'm Jessica Myers-Adams, your relationship visionary. This episode, I've been thinking about how do I end this season and possibly the podcast. Maybe next year something else is going to be coming up that I'm going to be working on. I'm not sure that we're going to do the 53rd episode. So I wanted to make sure that I really tried to tie things up and at least give a good starting place if you have been struggling. So if you've ever tried to get your partner to open up and you hit a wall of silence, you get defensiveness or you get I don't knows, then this episode is probably for you because I'm going to be talking about the skill that I think you're going to need. And the problem isn't that your partner won't talk. I've been talking about that all year. It's what happens after your partner starts to talk that has made the communication stall. Because maybe you think you're stuck in a place where you think they just don't share or can't. And so in this final episode, I'm sharing the most important relationship skill that you probably haven't been taught. The one that's going to allow your partner to feel safe enough to share and you calm enough to hear them. So I've done 51 episodes before this one, and I was thinking, okay, what's the most important thing to change the dynamic? I've been talking about two things, if you've been listening, and if you do this one, the other one has to improve. So I think I've picked a big pain point for my listeners in this episode because you want connection, you want conversation, closeness, aliveness, and one of two things prevents it. Either you're not really good at sharing, you maybe blame, you demand or criticize, and these things are unintentional. So you maybe aren't good at sharing, which is part of the conversation. The other major part of the conversation is getting your partner to share, making sure that the other part is represented. And so it's possible that your partner doesn't feel safe, or maybe they're not supported to unpack their inner world. A lot of times the couples that one of the partners that I talk to says their partner they just don't share. And I've said this before in different episodes, but as a reminder, I do think everybody wants to feel heard. Everybody wants someone to listen to them. Sometimes though, when we try to listen, we end up sabotaging it. So we want to make sure that first our partner feels safe. And then if they don't actually know how to talk about their feelings the way that you do, maybe you don't know how to support them actually getting started and doing that. So in this episode, I want to share with you why conversations maybe get shut down, why you can't get them to open up. And if you do, why it may go sideways. There's a hidden skill that I think makes connection possible. So I want to share that. How to stay steady when your partner shares something hard, because our immediate go-to is to fix or to make them feel better, but that actually shuts them down from sharing more. And I want to share with you what most people do that actually shuts their partner down. And so this is the turning point. I am finally sharing with you, I think, something that ties this all together. So let's jump in. If you ever thought yourself thinking, why can't they just tell me what they're thinking? You're not alone. But the hard truth is, if that's happening for you, then getting your partner to share is only half of the equation. What's the other half? Well, it's what has happened when they were attempting to tell you things. Because if you did a really great job, then your partner would be sharing with you because you are their person. And, how do I know this is because, when couples are on the brink, they talk about what it was like before. And at one point, both people were talking and they were sharing. That's essential for that couple to have gotten to a place where the relationship is worth fighting for, right? So the place where things break down, or they have broken down if they're silent, is that when your partner was sharing in the past, whether you're aware of it or not, you suddenly felt blamed or misunderstood. And so when you get uncomfortable, a lot of folks start to defend, they start to fix, or they shut down. And this isn't because they're a bad listener, it's because you're missing a critical skill. And I call the skill other differentiation. So this skill is the ability to stay present and steady and separate. You don't want to just join in with your partner while your partner is sharing what they think or feel. And the reason that I chose this other differentiation to talk about for the last episode is that if you're going to get better at either sharing or listening, this skill has an overlap between the two, right? You need to be able to self-regulate, and you need to know a way to gauge if your partner is listening to you if you want to share, right? So you do need this skill, whichever way you're going, whether you're trying to share or listen. So the very first skill that I want to talk about is this idea of dual awareness, which means that both people's experience matter. So if you're sharing or if you're listening, you need that. And so there's really 4 skills that I want to walk through and give you some ideas of how you can start to practice these, because they're skills that if we want to get better, we have to practice. Okay. So the first, as I said, is that you need emotional regulation if you're going to be able to listen and support your partner. If your body goes into a defense mode, then your ears shut down and you're not able to listen. So if you have the problem, you can't listen without getting upset or taking it personally. The skill we're looking at here is managing your internal reaction so you can stay present when your partner is sharing. And here are a couple of things that I think can help us. Now, you can do a Google search and you can, look at emotional regulation, but I want to give you some specifics, I think, for what I've taught my clients and what I think has worked for them and for myself. The first skill is that when you're listening and you start to get wrapped up in taking things personally, is that you can to yourself. Now, if you can get away from your partner to take a break and you can do this, great. But if you're in conversation, what are you feeling and thinking while they're sharing? The skill is name it to tame it. That actually comes from Dan Siegel. So naming what you feel without acting on it. Okay, so my partner is talking to me and I'm starting to feel like they're blaming me. I'm starting to feel shame. And even just saying that to yourself is activating the thinking part of the brain. And the thinking part of the brain is the part that is going to help you regulate. Because if you go more into the shame feeling, if you start to just feel the feelings without using the cognitive part of your brain, you're going to get lost in it. So can you name what you feel without acting on it? Another technique for emotional regulation would be using some grounding, breath, posture, or self-talk. So an example I would say that you could try, if you haven't tried these are great ones to do, is notice the colors around you while your partner is talking. Now, it might sound like you are multitasking and you're not listening to your partner, but if they're getting you so activated, can you just start to, take a little bit of a break and just notice some things going around you, grounding. Maybe you're feeling your feet on the floor. So colors around you, you could do some counting, but again, you're trying to be present. If your partner is saying something that is really upsetting, then you may need to say, can we just take 5 minutes? And you can do some of these things in the meantime. You can do some box breathing. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it for specifics, but it's counting in and creating a box with your breathing. I'll just kind of say it that way. One thing that is not going to distract you from your conversation is your posture. You can put your shoulders back and make your spine tall and relax your shoulders and lean slightly back. And I just did that and I could feel how that works and why that works. So go ahead and try it with me. Make your spine tall, shoulders relaxed and slightly back. What happens, why this works, is it expands your breathing, which promotes some openness and it reduces self-defensiveness. You might try it when you're trying to listen without shutting down. Maybe try this without crossing your arms, but with literally and emotionally. So the posture is a good way to try and lean in, although you're going to lean back. You may be able to recognize the inner story you're telling yourself. There's something hijacking the moment. So really practice listening to your partner. And the tip that I have for a lot of people when they're doing this, when they're listening, is one of the biggest things I think we can do to slow things down is to repeat back what they're saying in your own words. It gives yourself just a moment to catch up. So what I hear you saying is that you don't like when I interrupt you. Because what you're going to want to say is, I don't interrupt you, you interrupt me. You're going to cross complain. So just repeat it back. And again, paramount to all of this is taking a time out when you need to. And you don't abandon the conversation. You can come back to it. So emotional regulation is one of I think it's a pillar, right? If you can't be with your partner when they're sharing things that are either hard for them or something you're thinking you want to fix, if you can't keep yourself steady, then you can't go any further. So those are a couple of the big tips for that. The second skill that I want to talk about with trying to, listen and be present for your partner is tolerating the emotional discomfort. Say you're not getting defensive, but you feel like something is almost an emergency. You can't hear it without trying to fix it. This is going to be the skill when you get anxious or upset when they're upset. And we want to build the emotional muscle to sit with discomfort without shutting down, without fixing, or possibly fighting back. So let me give you a couple of skills that I think are really going to help you with this. I think the first thing is if we can just reframe discomfort as growth. So you can say to yourself something like, if they're feeling this and I'm here to support their growth, if I fix it, they can't grow, right? I want to be thinking about helping my partner by not fixing them. So reframe it. Like they're going through this, and if I fix it, they can't grow. Notice your urge to interrupt or fix it, because I think the first thing is knowing we do it, right? So be mindful of your urges and focus on asking questions. Again, repeating back to them and asking questions are two key things that I think people don't do. And if you think you're really good at this, the next time your partner talks to you about their day, see if you can ask 3 questions about what they're saying. You might say, there aren't 3 questions. I almost always in my office can have like 100 questions, or I could think of them if I, we're talking with somebody to get a better understanding of their experience, right? So ask questions and try to understand. And try to see if you can practice a non-reactive like presence, right? So if you can focus on figuring out what they're feeling and trying to understand it, your job here isn't to give them your feedback. Your job is to listen. And by listening, you're going to invite them to share more. If you go right into fix-it mode or telling them how maybe they should tell their boss this, or they should pick up the phone and make that phone call if they're uncomfortable, just giving, trying to be a cheerleader, that's not what they're coming to you for, right? And the last thing, if you're hearing something that is about you, and maybe they don't like something, they've said something that makes them feel bad. It doesn't mean you're bad. It means what they're saying is something that they don't like. So if they're talking about you, it's not bad, but they're not liking some aspect of your behavior or something you've done. You only need to listen. You don't need to get upset, right? The third skill, there's 4 of these, by the way. So if you're, hopefully this is helpful for you. And I'm not just giving you, like, I think these things, you may pick something that resonates with you based off of what you're struggling with. Active listening. So that's the third skill. You might say, I'm a really good listener. So again, are you listening and asking questions, or are you going into fix it mode or extra support mode? Because neither of those are trying to listen and be supportive. They're trying to fix. You're not just waiting your turn, you're creating space, allowing them to say more. Maybe you just literally say, tell me more. That does wonders, by the way. Just can you tell me more about that? The problem with the people who can't listen is they, tend to fix it instead of just listening, or they tend to defend themselves. And you want to show your partner that you're listening by reflecting, asking questions, and staying curious. Again, so you're saying, and repeat back, or don't add in your rebuttal or your thoughts about them, right? You don't want to say, how can I help you? Why do you think how can I help you is a bad question if you're asking them about them? Asking them about them would be, is there something that would help you, right? That is about them. If you say, is there something I can do? Then you're actually making the conversation about you. So we want to make sure that we're making it about them. And then this actually leads me right into my fourth. The skill that I want to mention is emotional decentering. What does that mean? It means it's not about you, even when it feels like it is. There's this episode of SpongeBob, the cartoon. Mr. Krabs says to his daughter, it's not all about you, Pearl. And my wife and I sometimes say, when the other one is talking to, when we're talking to each other and we've like made it about us, it's not about you, Pearl. And honestly, I think this line could be tattooed on the inside of every couple's brain, because emotional decentering is exactly that. It's the moment when your partner is sharing something vulnerable or frustrating, and your brain makes it about you. Oh yeah, my boss was a jerk today at work too. Or you start thinking, are they blaming me? I'm not enough. Do they even appreciate what I do? And so you've made it about you. Here's the truth. Your partner's feelings don't always require you to tell them about your day, or, it doesn't require you to share about you. It means you're learning to hold space for someone else without inserting yourself into their process. It's not detachment. That's not what I'm talking about here. It's about letting their story be their own without hijacking it with yours. So instead of making it all about me, I'm making it all about them. And you want to let your partner share their experience without a referendum to you. And some things you can do to work on this, like some micro skills, would be asking them and about what their experience is and not telling them what you think, delaying your need to be understood, identifying some ego triggers, meaning if they're upset, it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean equals I failed, right? This is their story now. And I hope that these skills support you on your journey, and that if you have not listened to the other episodes, maybe the first couple, they say if there's a good podcast and you listen to the first ones, you can see how your host got better. Hopefully I've gotten better over the year. I've worked with a lot of couples where the shift that we wanted to see was that the one partner would speak and the other partner would make it about them. They would get upset. I mean, there's so many couples like that. And I think the healing starts when you can say to your partner, I hear you and I'm here listening, even if your chest is tight or your brain is racing. And so my suggestion is, if you didn't take a couple of notes, maybe re-listen to those 4 descriptions. And the next time your partner tells you something that challenges you, ask them 3 questions. Maybe you can pick one of these skills. I'll go over them real quick just so you have them. The emotional regulation. You could do the Google search. You can do some of the things I've described, the posture, the breathing. Tolerating your emotional discomfort is a form of regulation, but there's, some specific ways I mentioned to do that. Make sure you're actively listening and emotionally decentering. So if you're tired of shutting down or reacting when what you really want is to connect, there's a couple of resources. There's the 51 episodes, my 7-day relationship reboot, walks you through the exact tools, plus how to use them in real conversations when your partner is shutting down. So you can do that with just a couple of moments a day. You can hop on a call or a video with me. I do offer a free consultation for my new clients, so we can really just figure out what's the very first step to recreate your connection. So lots of ways to get a hold of me. I'm going to continue to make content, maybe not episodes. So it has been, for me, a commitment to do these episodes. And so I hope that you take care of you and take care of your relationship until we meet again and our paths cross.
Thanks for joining us on the Love Conscious Relationship Podcast. If you like this podcast and heard something helpful, make sure to send it to a friend and leave a review about what you liked. For more daily doses of relationship truth, follow Jessica on our socials and TikTok at Jessica Relationship Visionary.